CENTalks, led by global experts, offers the CENTA teacher community insights into classroom practices and professional growth. Register for these sessions and actively participate by sharing your thoughts, joining polls, asking questions, and giving feedback to help us improve them. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of CENTA, we are delighted you will join us today for CENTA's webinar session for teachers. Today, we have the session on the topic Designing Engaging Lesson Plans Strategies for Deep Understanding and Active Learning. We are excited to announce that today's facilitator is Soma Chandra ma'am. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Dinesh.
Ms. Soma, Vice Principal Academics at City Montessori School, Gomti Nagar Campus 1, Lucknow, brings over 22 years of experience in teaching, training, and educational leadership. Her career spans roles as a primary teacher, headmistress, and vice principal, where she has made significant contributions through innovating teaching methods and mentorship. Recognized globally, she received the Indian Education Award in 2023 and was named one of India's top 10 learning champions at the 2024 Global Teachers Meet by CENTA. A certified Google trainer, she has led webinars for CENTA and Oxford University Press, driven by a passion for global competencies and positive learning environments. I welcome again Ms. Soma Chandra to our today's CENTalk session.
Thank you, Dinesh. Thank you once again.
Yeah, pleasure to have you, ma'am.
Good evening, educators. Welcome to today's webinar on designing engaging lesson plans. I'm Soma Chandra, and I'm thrilled to have such passionate educators from across the globe joining us today. I believe education is not just about filling minds with facts. It's about sparking curiosity, encouraging critical thinking, and shaping future leaders. Today, we embark on a journey to redefine learning, moving beyond textbooks to foster deep understanding and real world application through strategic planning, active engagement, and meaningful assessments. We can create classrooms where students don't just memorize but truly comprehend. That's really important. So let's challenge the norm, embrace innovation, and transform education one lesson at a time. But before we begin, let's warm up with a quick activity. In one word, describe your biggest challenge when designing lesson plans. In one word, describe your biggest challenge when designing lesson plans. I'm waiting, educators. Time, Aditi ma'am says time. Swati Kalwar says seek attention. Siva says activity. Okay. Time, effectiveness. Pratibha says time. So a lot of time. Instructional style to make it engaging. Manpreet says. Okay. Manab says time. So most of y'all says time. Okay. So to designing engaging lesson plan ensures that students actively participate in their learning rather than passively receiving information from the teachers only. The goal is to create lessons that promote deep understanding, encourages critical thinking, and adapt different learning styles. So today our focus will be on these objectives. Understanding the principles of designing engaging lesson plans, effective lesson plans aligning with the learning goals, the measurable learning outcome, which should be there, implementing of backward designing, that for meaningful learning. Start by defining learning outcomes. What do you want your children to learn after 40 minutes? What will they gain? Ensure lesson focus on deep understanding rather than just completion of the syllabus. Use assessment techniques to measure deep understanding. Assessment educators should go beyond memorization. We want to test their learning. We don't want them to just do rote learning. We don't want it. So use a mix of formative assessment. It can be quizzes, it can be self reflections, it can be project work, or a summative questionnaire, which should have a lot of critical thinking based questions, lot of MCQs, lot of procedural based questions, lot of HOTS. Let them reflect their learning. Explore various active learning strategies, engaging classroom where collaborative work is there, a lot of discussions could happen, problem solving activities could be taken up. So let us begin. What is understanding by design? Understanding by design was actually introduced by Grant Wiggins and J. M. Tighe in 2001, and it follows a structured approach known as backward designing. So instead of starting with an activity, we begin with the end goal. Where do we want our children to reach? What will they learn after 40 minutes? What should the students understand? What skills should they develop after the class? So, can I ask one question one more time? Can you share in one word that describes what an engaging lesson looks like? Can you share one word that describes what an engaging lesson looks like? Remember, instead of teaching students to memorize, say, historical dates, understanding backward designing would encourage them to analyze why events happened and how they can connect present day issues with this. Okay, so Juler says interactive, Smita says comprehensive, Kay says active class, Tina also says active class, Anu says engaging. Wonderful. I must say I have an interactive audience. So the key features of understanding backward designing. The first one is backward design approach. Plan with the end in mind. Second is essential questions. Encourage critical thinking. Third will be authentic assessment. That means we have to focus on performance-based tasks. And the fourth one would be flexible teaching strategies. Adapt to different learners. So authentic assessment strategies, you can say students would demonstrate understanding through performance based tasks, such as you can say present project based learning or real life problem solving rather than just traditional tasks. And flexible teaching strategies will be lesson we are that are adapted to different learning styles. It can be you can take up PowerPoint presentations, you can take an audio clipping, ensuring that all students can engage with the content effectively. See, we want the children to be engaged. If the students are not engaged or not actively participating in the class, learning won't happen. Do you agree with me or not? If you agree, show me a thumbs up. So, suppose, say, in a math class, visual learners use graphs, auditory learners discussion patterns, Or say kinesthetic learners solve equations with physical objects, or in a physics class, bringing a glass slab in the class, it will arouse a lot of interest in the class, isn't it? So, the main parts today we are going to first take up is backward designing, followed by teaching and assessing. So, backward designing, after writing these lesson plans, you will be able to enhance the critical thinking, the problem solving ability. You will, if you'll have class discussions in the class, which you can include in your plan, it will enhance their communication skills, collaborative skills, adapting to new technology and new resources. It will build resilience and self learning. So, as we have taken up earlier, also, the three major stages of backward designing are: number one, identify desired result. That is understanding. What are the big ideas and core concepts students must understand? What are the essential questions that would promote critical thinking? Say, instant teaching them about planets, student research and present a travel brochure, or chose a planet and demonstrate their learning about their planet, self reflection. Number two is determining acceptable evidence, that is, assessments. Assessments include performance, tasks, projects, presentations, portfolios, FAs, discussions, rather than just unit tests. Say, for example, in a science lesson, instead of multiple choice test on ecosystems, student can design a mini self-sustaining terrarium. And number three, plan learning experience and instructions. What engaging activities, discussions, and resources that will help students achieve the learning goals. For example, in a math lesson, in order to teach fractions, student use manipulatives to understand that. Student follow a real world recipe, say a pizza, or they can adjust ingredients for different serving sizes. They understand fractions. So connecting the topics with real life will make them, or will help the students understand the topic better. See, the benefits of backward designing: it will help in enhancing their deeper understanding. They'll become more focused, not just rote learning. It would encourage students' engagement also through meaningful assessments, because you'll be changing your assessment pattern. It will align lessons with real world applications, making learning very, very relevant. But misconceptions. As you can see, misconceptions: simply setting a clear learning outcome and planning related activities does not qualify your backward designing. Backward design requires identifying the expected student's performance at the end of the session, or say after the end of the chapter, before planning learning experiences. For example, if the goal is for students to write a, say, descriptive essay or a persuasive essay, you must define what a successful essay looks like, the criteria, before designing the teaching activities. So, another questions for you: what are some challenges that you had faced when defining student performance outcomes? Any challenge that you have faced while designing students' performance outcome? Come on, audience, the floor is for you. It's a collaborative platform where we will learn by sharing our own experiences. I'm waiting. Any challenge which you have faced while defining students' performance? Time constraints, Sonam says. Okay, Somita. Good evening, Somita. Okay. Sudha also agrees to Sonam. Time constraint. Okay. Clarity of learning objectives, Anu says. Great, Anu. Lack of interest. Pratibha says lack of interest. Yes, Pratibha, that is the reason while designing a lesson plan, we have to keep these pointers in mind. Learning without understanding the concepts, okay? Different students' needs, that's really important. Now we have to incorporate inclusive instructions. Next slide says teaching and assessing. Let us propose that we teach for understanding and transfer of knowledge. What we know, we want our children or our students to know. What is worthy of understanding in all the content that we could teach? That has to be kept in mind. And a way to prioritize our teaching and focusing on the curriculum also, that is important. We should not get deviated from the syllabus or from the curriculum. Implies that we are going to assess for understanding. What? Teach them a concept. Do not take up the back exercises or back questions only for the testing. Give them different kind of questions. That way you'll be able to assess how much your children have grasped. How deep is their understanding? So that it continues. Once they go from class 4 to class 5, whatever they have learned in grade 4, they should not forget that. That deeper understanding should remain. So let's take up backward designing. Backward designing, as we have discussed, it refers to what you want the children to achieve. Suppose you want to go for a vacation, as the slide says, and you have 20 days for your vacation. You have to go out of station. What will you do? What will you do, teachers? If you have to go for vacation on 20 days, you have to go out of station, what do you think you would do? Pre-plan, plan. What kind of planning will you do? What kind of planning will you do? Okay, budget, identify the place. Okay, I will go for a vacation. Yes, where to go? And then how to reach? And then what? Where am I going to stay? What is my budget? But first and foremost, what do we say? Next year during vacation, I'm planning to go to Kashmir. Next year, I'll go to Dubai. So first and foremost, what we do, we identify a destination. That is very, very important. So we are planning the outcome first. We should know where we have to go. So you want to go on a vacation break, you have 20 days. So do you just pack your bag and go, or do you decide where you want to go? As we discussed, we first decide where do we have to go. That's really important. So to do so, earlier, as we said, the traditional way, we were planning, we were making budget. Okay, this is our budget and this is the time, how many people will go. But no, the modern way is where we have to go, and then we plan our budget accordingly. Then we book the hotels. then the tickets accordingly. So the ultimate destination is first important. Your ultimate destination in your lesson plan is, audience, your ultimate destination in your lesson plan is, I have used this term. Come on, audience. Your ultimate destination in your lesson plan is outcomes. Victoria, I love you. You have given bang on. Supriya, learning outcome. Meena says learning outcome. Yes, that's really important. What we want our children to achieve. That's important. So let's see how it works. What kind of lesson plan we are supposed to write? Should it be a teacher-centered plan or a student-centered plan? If it is a teacher-centered plan, what will be our focus or role of a teacher or the role of a student, learning approaches, assessment, and classroom environment? Do you agree? What kind of plan we should write? A teacher-centered or a student-centered? Student-centered, Supriya says, yes, because end of the day, we have done our bit. It should be learning, and learning has to happen, and we have to focus on our students. So if it is a teacher-centered plan, the focus as a main source of knowledge, the teacher would be. And if it is a student-centered plan, students actively construct their own learning. They are involved in the class. The role of a teacher, if it is a teacher-centered class, it becomes instructor. But if it is a student-centered plan, we become facilitators. We provide them information. We help them to understand. So the role of a teacher in a student-centered plan becomes a facilitator. They guide, they support the students. And the role of the student, if it is a teacher-centered plan, they become passive because they just have to gain, note down, making notes, writing question answers, copying it from the board. But if it is a student-centered plan, a lot of discussions is happening in the class. The teacher is throwing the questions on the students and they are discussing, they're coming up with various answers and they're penning down the answers on their own. That means critical thinking is happening, creativity is happening. They're working, they're sharing knowledge, collaboration is happening. Learning approach will be lecture method. And what do we want? Inquiry based. The way we are having it right now. Sharing of ideas. Collaboration. The assessment pattern will be test, quizzes, or memorization, rote learning. Do we want our students to do rote learning and then forget whatever they have learned in one grade to the other grade? No, we don't want. We want performance-based tasks, authentic assessments. It can be FAs. Even you can give question answers and you can ask them to write their own answers in the class and you can just check them and give them remarks. You're assessing them. So structured teacher control pace and discussion where the teacher is only talking and the students are only hearing. Whereas in student-centric, it will be flexible, student-driven, and a lot of discussions are happening. So let's see what is understanding, what is genuine understanding and apparent understanding. Apparent, something which is not visible. A student may memorize concepts but struggle to apply them in different contexts. You've given them a question from the back of the chapter, they have written the answers, they have learnt it. But if you'll twist the question and you will ask in the test, they will not be able to, because they have got into the habit of rote learning. They're memorizing. So we have to teach them a similar kind, same question can be asked in different ways. So we have to build genuine understanding, the ability to transfer knowledge to new situations, new questions, and solve problems creatively. Isn't it? A student who has only memorized facts may struggle to answer different worded questions. Say a math problem that you can see 3 plus 7 tens. A child who only knows place values in isolation may struggle to recognize because you're giving ones first and tens later. What we generally do, 7 tens and 3 ones. But if you know the difference between tens and ones, if a child knows, he'll be able to solve. Similarly, as you can see in the seesaw balance activity, it demonstrates conceptual understanding of balance and weight distribution. On which side the weight is more, the slide will go down on that side. So it's actually role learning through activities, we make them understand. So, another question for my audience: can you recall a time when students seem to understand a concept but fail to apply it in a different context while you had taken your unit test, or you can say FAs, or you were asking them to solve question answers? Can you recall a time when a student seemed to understand, or during examination, a concept but failed to apply it in a different context? You all must be checking the final examination papers these days. And what we do generally, oh, I had told them the concept, still they missed it. Why do you think? Has it ever happened with you all? Has it ever happened, teachers? Yes, rightly said. Abhilasha agrees. Swati says many a time. Application of magnets, okay. Neelam agrees. Yes. So you are checking the examination papers and you are noticing, and you could feel that. So next time we are going to change our strategies. Next time we are going to plan, and we are going to do backward planning. What we want our students to understand, genuine understanding. So going below the surface to uncover the big issues. This phrase emphasizes the importance of deep analysis rather than just addressing the superficial symptoms of a problem in education. It means moving beyond the learning to develop critical thinking and deeper understanding. These are the two key terms: critical thinking and deeper understanding. For example, say if a student struggles with math word problem, which happens in the classrooms, maths teachers would agree with me, simply practicing more problems will not help. The real issue might be, say, comprehension skills, or maybe because of anxiety, numbers, maths paper, which requires a deeper look into their learning process. So, our focus, we have to change our focus. That's really important. So, let's take up 6 important facets of understanding. Number 1 is to explain. Explain through supported and justifiable accounts of phenomena, of facts and data. Say a 10th grade student provides a well supported view on what caused American Revolution. Okay, so we have to give them or explain a concept, connect it with real life, and explain it to them really well. Interpret. The next important point is interpret. Tell meaningful stories, provide a revealing personal dimension to ideas and events through images, anecdotes, analogies, and models. A grandfather, you still remember your stories told by your grandfather, the bedtime stories. So a grandfather tells stories about the depression to illustrate the importance of saying saving for a rainy day. Those stories apply. The third important point, effectively use and adapt what one knows in diverse context. You know the answer, you know the text. I have just twisted the question. So think about it. Never avoid giving them the answers. Avoid asking them direct questions. That is how they will learn. The fourth important point is perspective. See point of views through critical eyes and ears. See the big picture. A student understands the Israel and Palestinian arguments for and against new settlements on the Gaza Strip. So take up something which is happening. Ask them for their point of view and then ask them to write a descriptive essay or an argumentative essay. The fifth point is empathy. Find value in what others may find odd, alien, or say manipulatives, perceive sensitively on the basis of prior or direct experience. Like a teacher understand why a third standard student is not able to understand what she's taught. Have empathy. Just when a parent comes, your child is not focusing, she is not able to write. No, we have to find out and then talk to a parent individually. Being empathetic is very, very important. At times, we can give inclusive instructions, individualization. Then, the sixth and the very important point is self awareness. Perceive the personal style, prejudices. Now, you'll be getting a new section, right? Session 25, 26. Don't ask the previous teacher, how was your class? Who was good in drawing? Who could write answers very well? Who is a naughty child? Who's a troublesome parent? No prejudices, projections, and habits of mind that both shape and impede one's own understanding. Like a mother realizes the daughter's shyness is rooted in issues from her own childhood. We know that, but we have to help children to overcome. This is what teachers are for. So, establishing priorities is very, very important. Okay. There are more content than can be reasonably addressed. So we need to make choices. And the three important choices, the core is enduring understanding, lifelong learning. That is very, very important. First, we have to highlight that in our lesson plans. Second important thing is important to know and do what we want a student to know, what we want them to do with this knowledge. And the third, very important, is worth being familiar with. What are the key pointers they should keep in mind, which are very, very important and which they will carry on further? So, knowledge of facts, enduring understanding, it is the big idea or abstract concept which is very, very essential. Important to know is about knowledge and facts, what students should know and will be able to do with that. And the third important, again, I'm repeating, is knowledge of facts, concepts, skills that they are going to develop. So establish priorities. Say sound in grade 6. Okay. Know that what will be the enduring understanding. Sound is a form of, again, energy. It can travel when there's a matter to transmit it. Sound is caused by vibrations. This is the enduring understanding which they will carry it forward throughout. Don't you think? They'll carry it throughout, whether they are in grade 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Important to know would be know the relationship between the pitch of a sound and the frequency of the vibrations. The pitch, frequency, how are they important? Know the audible human range. These are very, very important things which they should carry it forward. And worth being familiar with will be know the different ways to produce sound. It can be through a, but if you're clicking using a cushion, you won't be able to. Know the relationship between loudness, that is the volume, and the amplitude of the vibrations that cause sound. So these are very, very important thing which the student should know. The various musical instruments, application of sound, they are worth being familiar with. The next example is nutrition. We are all teachers and we teach them nutrition, we teach them about food from grade 1, 2, 3, 5, and we bifurcate them: healthy food, unhealthy food, right? Different kinds of food, what are carbohydrates, vitamins, proteins. So it's for grade 3. The enduring understanding would be a balanced diet contributes to physical as well as mental health. Dietary requirements, what kind of food we should eat when we are a student, what kind of food an elderly person requires. So variables such as age, depending on the age, we change the kind of food we should eat. Important to know would be types of food in each of the food groups, which are carbohydrates, which come under roughage, which come under proteins. Interpret nutritional transformation on food labels. And worth being familiar with will be general eating patterns, menus, the past, different conditions, the food habit changes. In hilly areas, we eat different kind of food. We eat a lot of salt. Dietary restrictions for high pressures, low pressure, diabetes patient. So worth being familiar with. That's really, really important. So let's now see the filters of understanding. To identify the big idea of understanding would be enduring values. Does the idea have lasting relevance beyond the classroom? The core concepts. Does it connect to fundamental principles of the subject? Inquiry based. Does it spark deep questioning and exploration among students? And even transferability. Can students apply it in different concepts? And the last and very important is misconceptions. Does it challenge students' assumptions or require deeper thinking? So, a lot of talking. So, let's check the knowledge, enduring understanding of my audience. Which of the following best describe enduring understanding in lesson planning? Which of the following best describes enduring understanding in lesson planning? Is it A, minor fact that students need to memorize? Is it B, a key concept that has lasting value beyond the classroom? Or is it C, specific skill required for a test? Come on, audience. Which of the following best describes enduring understanding? B. Jisoo says B. Suman says B. Many both says B. Rajesh says C. No, Rajesh. It requires the correct answer is B, a key concept that has lasting value beyond the classroom. As I mentioned, once they pass from grade, say 5 to 6, whatever they have learned, they should carry it forward. The syllabus should be spiral. So let's focus now on what is an essential question. An essential question should be an open ended question, thought provoking question that drives inquiry and deep learning. It should encourage students to explore big ideas, what you want them to achieve, make connections, and think critically rather than just recalling of facts. Say in history, how do past events shape the present and future? In mathematics, why do we use different methods to solve the same problem? And in science, how does energy impact our daily lives? You're connecting it with real life. You're asking them to think. That's important. So, next is authentic assessments. Focus on performance based tasks. Authentic assessments evaluate students through real world applications of knowledge rather than just traditional tests. They require learners to demonstrate their skills in meaningful ways, ensuring understanding and practical application. You can, for example, instead of MCQ choice test or say persuasive writing, students create an advertisement or write a letter convincing a real audience about something. That should be an authentic assessment. Focus how much they have understood, how much they are able to apply. Their creativity, enhancing their creativity, critical thinking, collaboration. Okay. Next is flexible teaching strategies, which we should apply to adapt to different learners. In our classroom, we have different learners, different kinds of learners. So, flexible teaching strategies involve adapting instructional methods to meet the diverse learning needs. Some are average, some require more time, some grasp the concept very easily. So it is very, very important to address the students who have diverse learning needs, interests, and abilities. This approach will ensure that all your learners, regardless of their background or say learning style, can access, engage with, and retain knowledge effectively. Your key strategy should be modifying content process and assessment based on student needs, incorporating visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learning, providing support and gradually increasing the complexity, that is scaffolding, and your approach should be student centric, encouraging inquiry, collaboration, and self paced learning. So, let me share with you the lesson plan format. Keep these pointers in your lesson plan. Number one, enduring understanding. When you write the next plan, important to know or do, worth being familiar with, essential questions we should ask, and knowledge and skill which the student would develop after your session. Remember, planning is very, very important. So, how to establish priorities? Enduring understanding, big ideas, we have already discussed. Important to know knowledge, what the student should carry it forward, deep understanding, and worth being familiar with, what we want the student to be familiar with. So, determine acceptable evidences. Think like an assessor. Before designing specific units or lessons, consider how you will determine if students have attained a desired understanding. You can conduct a diagnostic assessment also before beginning a chapter, and then you can plan accordingly. Students insightful explain or interpret their learning. show their work, that can also be taken up. Justify or support their performance product by commenting, giving feedback. Get evidence of students' ability to apply their learning in new varies, say different kind of questions and realistic situations. And follow the 6 facets of understanding. That would definitely help you to create a framework for building appropriate assessment tasks. So remember, understanding is very, very important. You can achieve the desired result, establish goals in your plan. The enduring understanding and learning goals of the lesson should be well established. Students will be able to independently use that understanding in solving or applying it while framing answers, solving question papers. Student will be, so this line, when you are explaining in your lesson plan, should be there. Student will be able to understand the terms, the big idea of your lesson plan, of your session. Then essential questions refers to the provocative questions that fosters inquiry, understanding, transfer of learning. These questions would typically frame the lesson or unit or course very, very well. Then students will know refers to the key knowledge that student will acquire certain skills, certain knowledge, and students will become skilled in writing, framing answers. That is important and that will help you in refining your lesson plans. Stage 2 is evaluation criteria. Refers to the various types of criteria for which you will be evaluating the performance of the students. Authentic performance, asking them variety of questions to check their desired understanding or so that they could demonstrate that they have attained their goals. The performance or the task are typically larger assessment, different types of questions, different types of assessment should be designed. Assess them in varied ways, give them remarks, give them feedback. It's not mandatory to write marks all the time. Your verbal and non-verbal feedbacks are also very, very important. Even your formal and informal feedback is also very important. Then other evidence you can mention in the plan refers to the types of evidence which you are taking, be it PPTs, be it reference books. This also include the quizzes or the kind of homework you are giving. This is also a good point to consider incorporating self-assessment. Homework. Give them questions to be solved on their own. So, and the third is learning to plan. This stage encompasses the individual learning activities and instructional strategies. So, understanding is how to structure learning effectively. On your screen, there's a lesson plan on adjectives. They're special words used to describe the objectives of living organism, people, places, and situations, which we generally do in adjectives. These words are used to compare. You can give these questions are objects, people, or situations. Order of these descriptive or words and sentences. So, which circle of understanding are we making them do? Is it enduring understanding? Is it important to know? Is it worth being familiar with? Terms like adjectives, positive, degree, comparative, superlative, and specific words used to describe quality, quantity, and number. What will be the enduring understanding? Audience, what will be the enduring understanding? Remember, that's really, really important. Something which they will carry it forward. The adjectives which they can use with living organisms, people, motions, application of knowledge. Wonderful, Dr. Afreen. Another example is of math, decimals. The statement for enduring understanding, important to know and worth being familiar with, is converting fractions into decimals and decimals to fractions. Every decimal can be written as fractions. That's the enduring understanding which they can, that will go on and on and on throughout the lifetime. Ordering of decimals in increasing or decreasing order, they should know. Any two decimal number can be compared among themselves, they should know. And worth being familiar with is decimals are used in many ways in our lives. For example, in representing units of money, 3 rupees 50 paisa, length and weight. So let's get started. Dear educators, select one topic of your respective subject that you'd be taking up in the first month of the session and work on identifying these key concepts. That's very, very important. The key concepts that each child must understand. Key concepts that are big ideas that serve as the foundation of learning in a subject. The second point is the knowledge that is important for deeper understanding. It refers to facts, theories, and explanations. The third point, other than key element, worth knowing but not elementary to understanding. These elements enrich learning but are not essential for grasping the key concepts. They add value by broadening students' perspective. The fourth is the essential questions that should be asked. For example, why are plants important for life on earth? How do the different parts of a plant work together to help it grow? What would happen if plants didn't have roots or leaves? Why do some plants survive in the desert while others need a lot of water? How do humans depend on plants? We are developing critical thinking. Last one, the knowledge and skills that student would develop. With the key concept that essential questions and students develop both content knowledge as well as important skills. Names and functions of the various parts of plants, basic scientific processes like photosynthesis, pollination, and skills they are developing is observation and inquiry, critical thinking, communication, collaboration. So while you are drafting your pedagogy for the specific topic, also plan the following: conceptual questions that students will be able to answer, students taking notes independently. That's very, very important. In our school, we take up a lot of my space. Beginning of the chapter, where the teachers ask them to read the chapter and write some key points or the drawing which they want to make. That's your, whatever you have understood. You want to depict it in the form of drawing or keywords, that's up to you. Students use these notes to write answers. Students develop a habit of making rough notebook. Acceptance that student notebook don't have to be impeccable. Acceptance that error, mistakes are part of learning. At what intervals FA should be planned. These are very, very important. Formative assessments. So what we have learned today, the importance of engaging lesson plans, backward planning and the 3 stages of backward planning, the important terms, enduring understanding, important to know, active learning strategies, how you can involve the students, how you can change their abilities, how you can develop skills, the role of assessment in meaningful education. So, dear educators, as we conclude today's session, let's remember that great teaching is not just about delivering content, but about inspiring curiosity, fostering deep understanding, and creating meaningful learning experiences. Through engaging lesson plans, backward planning, and active learning strategies, we can empower students to think critically and apply their knowledge in real life. Assessment should not be the only measure to analyze how much they have understood. It should not be on rote learning, but a tool of growth. Let's continue to innovate, adapt, and ignite a lifelong love for learning every student we teach. Let us begin the new academic session 25-26 with powerful planning and deeper, enduring understanding. That was all for today on lesson planning. The forum is now open for any questions if you have, audience. Over to you, Dhanesh.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for a very engaging and informative session for our teacher community. I'm sure our teachers have taken a lot to learn from this session. Let me just check if there are any questions from the audience. Okay. So, ma'am, how can lesson plans be designed to accommodate different learning styles, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, while still promoting active engagement and critical thinking?
Told you, while designing a lesson plan, we have to consider, first divide the class, we have to cater to certain activities and think whether I'll be able to touch the average student of my class. See, those who are, you can say, are really good, they grasp the concept easily, it's easy for them. But we have to see the average learning ability of our class, and then we should plan our activities. Remember, I shared a lesson plan with you all. First, write the measurable learning outcome. What will be the enduring understanding? Believe me, if your students have learned a particular concept, they'll be able to pen down the answers. Try it out. Ask them. Those who require help, have an open discussion of a question. Take up one question, discuss it in the class, ask them to come up with answers. Even those who require help, ask them to come up with one line, one keyword which they think that should be included in the answer. Gradually ask them to frame their own answers and read those answers in the class. You have done well. I know you have the capability to do much better than that. Do not read just the best answers in the class. Read the answers of those who are not able to frame it really well. That will motivate them, that will encourage them to work a little extra. They'll go back home, read the chapter, do a lot of flip teaching. That is another way of dealing with those students who require a real little hand holding. That will give them confidence. Your verbal feedback would give them confidence.
Thank you, ma'am. I think teachers will try to incorporate these strategies in their classrooms. Uh, Now, for the audience, if you have registered and filled out the feedback form for this session, you can check the record of participation in the app in the My Learning section. I will guide you through the instructions one by one. So, step one, you need to open the CENTA app on your device. Then you need to navigate to the ongoing webinar section, which is under your My Learning, the learning section. Then you need to click on the submit feedback button. And please note that the option will be available after 6 p.m., right? Now, the code for the feedback form is 5942, which is also getting displayed on your screen. You can complete the feedback form and you'll be able to download your record of participation instantly. This new process was introduced to streamline your experience and your participation and ensure that your participation is instantly recognized. An important announcement for everyone that this feedback form will be available only through the CENTA app and will not be shared in the session. So you need to download the CENTA app today. I thank you everyone for engaging with us today. To register for more such upcoming webinars, please visit the CENTA app. Good night, everyone.